All right, let's welcome into Straight Fire one of my all-time favorite columnist voices, sports comedians, if you will. I've been reading this guy forever, and I've talked to him on a couple podcasts before. Norman Chad, just a big-time legend in sports media. Norman, how are you on this glorious Monday?
I've been better. I've been worse. It's good to see you're all grown up and working, and working good for a real company.
Yeah, Norman loves to fire barbs just left and right. That's how he operates. Let's start with the with life at large. You've covered the media forever. You had a column in the Washington Post. The Washington Post, is that still kicking a lot? I don't know if it's still around. Jeff Bezos may have dumped it. Trump might have made him do it. I don't know. But how do you make sense of the media landscape currently? I'm assuming you're big on TikTok.
Uh, you know, I just I just was forced onto TikTok. Had never watched TikTok till about 6 weeks ago.
Oh,
And I started doing a gambling podcast last year called Gambling Mad. And the people who are branding it and marketing it decided to put us out on TikTok. And once I looked at TikTok, Jason, it's one of those things where you wish you were like 10 years old again, and you weren't looking at TikTok.
yeah.
It just didn't do much for me. The media landscape right now, obviously, is wide open. It's wonderful. It's ragged. It's scary. And I'm most worried about the so-called legacy media, which, of course, Elon Musk and others are dumping on endlessly at this point.
Yeah, it is kind of strange. Like the conference championship games happened, right? And now we're in the everybody has a voice era, and everybody's shouting anonymously, not anonymously, and they're largely saying the same thing. And I don't know if it's bots or what have you, but it just feels different. Like, has any one person stood out with a take that you've seen on Chiefs Bills or Eagles Washington? It's just so crowded. You have to get outlandish to cut through.
And that's the problem. The fact that it is so crowded, whoever is more outlandish or louder is going to get noticed more. And that's
Mhm.
part of the problem of what we've seen over the past 10 or 20 years out on the media landscape. You have to be louder and more outlandish to hold your spot. And so more reasonable, measured thinking really gets buried. In fact, if you ever, I know when I used to do sports radio a lot and people, like 5 minute segments, if they ever asked you a question, your answer was, I don't know, you wouldn't be asked back again. So sometimes the answer is, I don't know, but you're
Yeah.
not allowed to say, I don't know anymore. You're supposed to form an opinion immediately and get it out immediately. And as I've said for many, many years, there's something right about stepping back and thinking for a moment
Mhm.
before you formulate an opinion and put it out to the masses.
Yeah, you're basically expected to have a serious, scorching hot take instantly off of every game, every kernel of news. And I just wonder if it's starting to chase reasonable minds away. We saw Adrian Wojnarowski kind of step back, and now he's a GM at St. Bonaventure. You hear rumors that, hey, Adam Schefter is kind of feeling the same burnout. And I don't know. It's like a 24/7 thing. You got to be on social media, you got to have takes. There's no room for reason, right?
No, this is my favorite comedian, Donald. Uh, Talking about the burnout of being on 24/7, he on his Twitter feed, he used to live tweet golf tournaments. You can live tweet anything, obviously. I've live tweeted a lot of NFL games and NBA games,
Yeah.
but if you can go back and you can look at his Twitter feed right now, and you'd see an entire afternoon of his tweets are 4 putt here, could be tough. Can't believe he missed that one. Here comes McElroy. I mean, just like 5 word tweets going out every 10 seconds. And I think he's heavily medicated. Why are you doing this? Why do you have to be out there at all times? But you got to keep the brand alive.
Yeah.
And so it does make more reasonable thought. Adam Schefter is famous for having 2 or 3 cell phones, I guess, at all times,
Yeah.
whether he's awake, whether he's asleep, whether he's in the shower. That's 1 or 2 cell phones too many. And it's just, some things that Adam do, I really disagree with because that's a whole other thing about how he operates in terms of sources and how he operates in his field in terms of journalism and exchanging information with news subjects. That's a whole nother topic. But they're just out there, and ESPN wants you out there at every
Yeah.
moment of the day. They want you to be a 24/7 force, and it makes it really, really difficult if you have to feed that beast.
Yeah, back in the day when you were doing your columns, you had days, right, to think and ponder and craft. There's not, I mean, you got like what, 5 minutes to craft a tweet now about what Jerry Jones hired in Dallas, the Schottenheimer disaster, and you've got to make it count, and you got to be hotter than the next guy. I don't know where this ends.
It doesn't. This genie you don't put back into the bottle.
Mm.
More difficult, I don't know where it ends, where we're polarized with, we've got this tribe watching this cable network, that tribe watching that cable
Mm.
network. We even now have an outbreak from Twitter, or from X, Blue Sky, which is a
Oh,
lot of people
jeez.
from X who got tired of the toxic X. They went over to Blue Sky. Well, X is Fox News and Blue Sky is MSNBC. So it's always, that doesn't end either. What kills me though, Jason, is when I used to write a sports media column, and there obviously now anybody can just sign on and be a sports media columnist.
Yeah.
You don't need any background. I remember executive producer of NFL Sports at CBS, a guy named Ted Shaker, real smart guy. He told me once, this is what he doesn't understand about the sports media, and this is pre-internet. He says, if you got a popular TV show, let's say you got Friends or
Okay.
Seinfeld or Emergency, whatever. They review it at the beginning of the year. They might watch the first couple of episodes, and then you have a series of 20 episodes that go on, and nobody ever talks about it again. What he didn't understand then, and this is because of the USA Today business of having a sports media column every other day, is that when we do a sports television broadcast, every single one is dissected by these people sitting at home. These are just a bunch of media columns. There weren't that many. He says, how come the networks in prime time, they get one blast away? Oh, the Cosby Show is back. Looks like it's gonna be pretty good. And if we put up a bad graphic on the third quarter of a Buccaneers Saints game, it's flaw of the week. And he was right. It made no sense. Well, now what he was talking about, it's that times 100.
Yeah.
There are just not a million websites out there covering this on every move. Is Tom Brady good? Is Tom Brady bad? But as you know, just on social media alone during the game, they're blasting away. That's why I
Yeah.
couldn't believe Joe Buck, who's a smart guy, was dumb enough when he first started interacting with Twitter,
Wow.
be live with Twitter during games, checking what they were saying. Are you nuts?
Yeah. No.
You
No.
might as well just, take a baseball bat to your head. And he learned quickly you can't do that. I mean, that's the most toxic room in the world. How are you going to broadcast normally while they're calling you every name in the book? So
Yeah.
Joe got smarter about that, and he's gotten smarter about a lot of things. But yeah, everybody smothers you now when you're talking about anything on the air. You get smothered by both websites and by people just
Yeah.
sitting at home.
Do you have anybody asking you, "Hey, man, I want to go into sports media. I want to major in something in college so I can be into journalism." I'm assuming you're doing what I'm doing and telling people, "Dude, I would not go into this industry. It's DOA right now. It's cratering. It's only getting worse." Is that the kind of advice you're giving, or are you urging and encouraging people to get into journalism?
It's both. So on the first
Oh,
half, I agree with you completely. In fact, I'd go in once or twice a year for a sports writer friend of mine who was a visiting professor at USC teaching a sports journalism class, and he had me come in, up to about 10 years ago. And this is just 10 years ago. He cut me off. He had me come in and talk to the class in the fall and the spring, and my message got too dark for him. He he stopped inviting me because I told him run for the hills. I said there's more opportunity than ever now, but it is a cratered, screwed up landscape out there. It's going to be tough for you. You have to have a passion for it. So I told him to go another direction. However, I told him if you do have a passion for it, we need it worse than ever. And one of the areas I've been wrong, Jason, you mentioned the Washington Post at the beginning, which I worked most of my career for. I thought with all this incredible avalanche of information that was just stupid. It came from anywhere. You could type it up. I could type it up. You could have a website out of your basement. You could be anybody. That we would circle back to the credible, vetted, veteran sources of information. CBS News, the Washington Post. So sooner or later, we had to circle back to stuff that was legitimate. But not only is I wrong on that, we're not circling back to that. The new media sources saying those people, they're screwed up. We're screwed up because of CBS News, the Washington. We're never going back to them. They've been telling you lies for years, which is not true. They've gotten things wrong here and there, but the whole mass of their work is irreplaceable. So it's really gotten bad out there. So I've told these people, if you have a passion for it, please follow it because we still need boots on the ground. We need real journalists.
yeah. I don't
Plus,
know.
about this citizen journalism.
Are you telling people, "Hey, go start a Substack. Go fire one of those up"?
It's tough. A Substack's a hard way to go. In fact, most people going Substack are ones who've already had a career. And
Yeah.
So they can afford to do that. No, I'm time to fight the good fight and try to keep traditional media alive. Whether it's the Washington Post, whether it's Newsweek, whether it's CBS News, whether it's CNN, because without them, people keep thinking the media lies, the media lies. All they're talking about is what the media is talking about, let's say, the election. That's all they see. They don't see you. If you look at the New York Times, I hate to defend the New York Times. If you see the output of information they put on a daily basis from around the world on topics near and far, it's mind-boggling.
Oh yeah.
There's no replacement for that. There's also no replacement then at a local level, which is also getting crushed by this don't fake news, don't trust the media anymore. With somebody in a small town, like those papers are dying, but
Oh, yeah.
somebody in a small town covering, a zoning commission meeting or what's happening with the cops in the smallest county in Montana. You need somebody doing that. Citizen journalism, that's just people walking around with walkie-talkies. Hey, I see, hey, he's got a hoodie on. It might be not safe here on Main Street. You need real journalists.
Yeah.
That's why I gave them a mixed message. Run for the hills, but if you're going to stay, please,
Yeah.
put your heart into it.
Yeah, no, I don't totally disagree with that. I just, and again, I'm starting to sound like an old guy here, but like when I was growing up, I would wake up. My parents, we subscribed to the Washington Post. They would pull it in every morning, 6 a.m. I would instantly dive for the sports section and read Kornheiser, Wilbon, and that's how I would get my information. We didn't have like what it was, a Sports Center 24/7 or all these social media. We didn't have any of that stuff. I can't remember the last time, Norman, I actually opened a physical newspaper, and my kids sure as hell have not opened one in years, if not ever. But I just don't know. Like you said, the genie's out of the bottle. We can't go back to that because there's so much info. But do we need to, or have we just advanced past that phase as a society?
Well, we're not going back to print. And as much as I love print, it was a dinosaur, and it's actually bad for the environment. You got to keep
Oh, that's
cutting
right.
trees. It's a bad distribution system. When you think of what it used to be to write an article and have a printing press print it up, and then the print presses go like this, and then they go to the trucks, and the trucks deliver them to 7-Eleven. And that's absurd when right now you or I could type something in right now and go worldwide to 8 billion people. We're not going to have 8 billion people, but okay, that's a better distribution system. So much cheaper. Newspapers screwed that up in making that transition because they are important. So they screwed that up. They also got hurt by the fact that on the internet, you can find anything for free. So what's the person to know the difference between, Joey putting out something out of a bar in Lansing, Michigan, and the New York Times? They just see two things, and one thing says that Hitler was Jewish. Maybe Hitler was Jewish, and the other thing says no, Hitler was part of the Holocaust. Well, that might be true too. Who knows?
Yeah.
So they you can't tell the two. So you got to find a way again to direct people to a more credible area where they can have stuff that's believable. I don't know how you do that at this point.
Yeah.
Because
Well,
I don't believe that stuff.
I'm not the biggest Joe Rogan fan, although I do, have I listen to some of his stuff, but he had a good context. He's like, oh, I love to go on Twitter and I'll just say something totally inflammatory, pull the pin on the grenade, post it, and then shut it down and not check it for 2 or 3 days. And that's that. I don't know if you've done that. It's actually really fun. Now you have to have the discipline to not want to go back and engage with these jabronis online, but like the idea of doing that, just like, hey, Michael Jordan was overrated, blah, 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 blah. Boom, post it. And then you just shut it down. You come back and you went viral. All these people are shitting on you. But you know what? Who cares? Nobody cares. In a week, nobody will remember you said this. Absolutely no one. Because guess what? They're on to the next brush fire. So we're at the stage, it feels like, Norman, where pretty much anything goes. And I just don't know if long-term that's really good for us as a society.
No, it isn't. You just mentioned it's a series of brush fires, and they come and go every 24 hours. I mean, you can put one out, you have another one the next day. Yeah, any Twitter storm or X storm is over within 48 hours. It's not good for the society. It's not good for our future as civilizations. That's why you need. I remember from The American President, the movie with Michael Douglas.
Michael Douglas, yeah,
where he told Richard Dreyfuss, the guy who's actually is a good precursor. I guess it was an Aaron Sorkin film, so it was a good precursor to current times. But Richard Dreyfuss is trying to storm up, anti-immigrant stuff and blah blah. And Michael Douglas finally said, "Listen, your 15 minutes are up. You're not a serious person. Whatever. I'm blah blah blah. I'm president of the United States, and we're doing this. It's hard to get back to that, and because we're in trouble. As I said, we're in trouble with the tribes. We've had polarization my whole life. People think this is the worst polarization ever. It's not. There's something called a civil war. We're having a civil war without guns right now, And I don't know how we get back to the normal conversations.
Yeah.
But
I never asked Norman, where do you, if you don't mind, what state are you living in right now?
I'm in the state you are. I'm in Los Angeles, California.
Oh, okay, nice. So
Uh,
it's weird being out here. I do feel like people. I don't want to, characterize everyone as not being well read, but it feels like you can, if you're talking to people in LA, they seem like they're up on a lot of stuff, not just the Kardashians. But if you look nationwide, this narrative is, oh, California, you must be some liberal. How's the what is it, avocado toast? Like there's that narrative. And then if you come out here and actually talk to people and walk around, I don't sense that liberalism left. I just don't see that. Do you? You've been out here much longer than I have, obviously.
well, again, California is a big state, as we know.
Yeah.
It's 40 million people, largest in the U.S. People think of California if they don't come out here. They think of L.A. or beaches or San Francisco. All right, those are bluer areas. California as a state is about 60-40. Democrat to
Hmm.
Republican. 60-40. I mean, so yeah, 2 out of every 5 people, you're gonna, especially again in Central California and north of the Bay Area, you're gonna find a lot more red than blue. Yeah, I find diversity here all the time. I mean, there's more diversity in Los Angeles than there is in almost any part of the country in terms of ethnic diversity. People from different parts of the world, people with different viewpoints. We get, again, because of Hollywood, we hear disproportionately from
Yeah.
Hollywood people, which makes no sense. I just don't want to hear from Billy Baldwin or Justine Bateman. Get some work. You two, both you two, get some work. All right. I don't care if it's theater. I don't care if it's dinner theater in Rockville, Maryland. Work on your craft and stop telling me how to live my life.
Hmm.
But yeah, it's very diverse. It's easy to dump on California. You live here. I live here. We could come up with a list of 10 horrendous things about LA better than somebody who's living in the Midwest. We know the city. We also can come up with 10 great things about the area as well, but we tend to stereotype things. So people have never been to New York think it's the most, New York City think it's unbelievably dangerous. Most
And
of
dirty,
Yeah,
smelly.
dirty.
Yeah.
New York City is one of the most vibrant urban communities in the history of the
I
world.
loved it
Yeah,
so
you
much when
love
I
it.
lived there. It was
Yeah,
amazing.
it's amazing. Okay. For most people. So you get these stereotypes. It's hard to rip through the stereotype. And it's the whole thing, perception is reality. So if that's the perception of it, and the current president played a lot on this about incredible violence in the streets, and it's never been worse than it is today. And this place, when crime is going down in big cities and stuff like that, but the perception holds
Yeah.
forth.
It's goofy. What about sports takes specifically? What's your appetite for Chiefs Eagles part deux?
I you know First of all, it's kind of hard not to want to watch those two teams. I would have been
Hmm.
happy with any of the Final Four making the Super Bowl, but the Chiefs and Eagles are just. I have no problem with being a replay of 2 years ago. I just saw Clay Travis say this morning that he has, personally, I have no interest in seeing Chiefs Eagles again. If Alabama played Georgia in the national title game 33 straight years, he would be running buck naked down the middle of every street in America. So he has no
Yeah.
appetite for Chiefs Eagles. Who are we kidding? It's a great storyline, just like Chiefs Bills was a great storyline. I have no appetite anymore for the Chiefs are getting the breaks, and the Chiefs, it's rigged for the Chiefs, which is just BS. They might be getting breaks. This happens in cycles. As far as it being rigged,
Yeah, that's goofy.
I want to see the chain of command on that. I want to see the paper trail on how that works. Does it start with you down? And has anybody ever come out and said, you can't believe what the NFL told me today? They told me that the referee with 135 left in the game in a close game is going to call this incredible penalty to allow them to win. All that is complete bonkers.
Nonsense. Yeah.
So
I don't think anybody thinks it's rigged. It is fun to talk about the penalties and the Josh Allen sneak, and one referee looked like it said a first down and the other said no. It's a fun talking point, but yet I don't think anybody reasonable thinks it's actually rigged.
I think some people do. I mean, we've got enough people that obviously that think our elections have been rigged. So why wouldn't they think a sporting contest is rigged? I've heard about the NBA for years. And again, is there favoritism towards the big stars? There might be. It just without even thinking about it, an unconscious thing. But it's never been rigged for the big stars in the NBA. And it's, by the way, it's not like the NFL is trying to get the Kansas City Chiefs in the 97th biggest market in the country to make the Super Bowl every year.
Yeah.
So I do think some people think it's rigged. I get too much mail telling me, it's rigged.
Oh, geez. I would try to break that down by age, but I'll pass on that. Let me ask you, more unlikable dynasty, Chiefs or Patriots with Brady and Belichick?
It's not even close for me, and I'm biased on this. Uh, the Patriots are much more unlikable. First of all, the Patriots had several. Belichick is not exactly. Andy Reid versus Belichick is Santa Claus versus Bill Belichick. I mean, if you have Videogate and you have Deflategate and you have credible accusations about the headsets on the other sideline going down for key times, the Patriots' history of that stuff is incredible.
Yeah.
Plus, the New England fan base is a little harder to take than virtually any fan base in the country. They'd be top five for, get them out of me, get them away from me. Jets, some New York people, Eagles fans, Raiders fans, Patriots fans, Chiefs fans. If they should stop doing,
Yeah.
besides that, they're out, it's like Buffalo fans. They're out
Yeah.
there. It's a big deal. It's the biggest thing in town. They want to win. So I think the Chiefs are much more likable.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So like you're a sports guy, you've been around sports forever, writing about it, making people laugh. When some random guy comes up to you and is like, "Hey, who's a better quarterback, Mahomes or Brady?" Is that the kind of thing you just like, I hate these GOAT topics, Jordan, LeBron, or do you care about them and get engaged and crack one-liners?
I don't get engaged. I understand it's the nature of sports, so it's benign. If you want to sit in the bar and go MJ or LeBron, go right ahead and do it. But I'm going to move three stools down and maybe discuss Rembrandt versus Da Vinci. There's no way one way or the other. So it's kind of endless. I always talk about just appreciate how good these people are in their day and age. And it's hard to argue with how good LeBron's been for 20 years, how good Kobe was for 20 years, how good MJ was for 20 years. So the arguments wear me out, but it's the nature of sports. I have no big problem with it. I just don't want to be around it all the time because it's never ending and there's no answer.
That's the kind of hot take that will not go viral. Right there. There's no answer. Let me ask you, JJ Redick takes over the Lakers job, and he had an amazing phrase that I had never heard, but man, I love it. Engagement farming, where essentially what people are going to click on and get people riled up, and you just put that out on social media. And I got to admit to JJ, I've been stealing that a little bit. I'm just curious, do you ever do any engagement farming online?
No. In fact, sometimes I get accused of all people. I don't, I don't have hot takes. I'm not online to get clicks, and I'll get especially when I'm being tough on Clay Travis or Dave Portnoy or Chris Russo. People, oh yeah, I see you just or Elon. Oh, you're just looking for clicks. You're engagement farming. You're doing this. They don't even use that term. That is a great term. No, I've never written. When I wrote columns, I always wrote for myself. I wasn't trying to say, okay, what exactly is going to get me the biggest audience this week? And I had the luxury of doing that before clicks were online, where now they do look at clicks.
Oh, yeah.
Don't you ever write a bowling column again? We got 800 clicks instead of 3,000 clicks.
Yeah.
Bowling's a great thing to write about once a year. Anyway, so no engagement farming ever. I understand it exists. And now on X, you can make money by the engagement farming. They offer, on X Premium, you make more money with the more you tweet and the more that you get clicks on it. And you can make a good amount of money. There's
really? I was unaware of this.
Yeah, it started with Elon started that when he took over, and there's a woman, I can't think of her name. She's in the South, and I think she's a spiritual person. Except every single one of her takes has words I wouldn't even say if we weren't on the air, and she is a monster. She makes six figures.
No.
Oh yeah, just by you can make six figures a year if you get enough engagement. No question about it now, the way he set it up. But she does this purposefully. I mean, I didn't realize this when the first time I engaged her. I DM'd her and said, listen, there's no, if you want to make the point, we need to have a more civil dialogue out there. The profanity doesn't help. It's a wrong way to go about. And to her credit, I'm not going to call it up. She responded to me within about 5 words, and 4 of the words were not very good. So she just banged back me in a DM like, but don't mess around with my income. And she does it on everybody. She did it on Kamala. She's particularly hard on women in politics, on AOC, Kamala. But it's for real. You can make a lot of money, and again, for not good stuff.
Yeah, here's the weird thing. Like, you and I have been making money doing this sports stuff. We're not bagging on the same people over and over. What kind of life is that this woman's just on social media every day crushing women in politics? Like that's her thing. And it sounds like she's only going after Democrats as opposed to Republicans, huh?
Oh yeah, yeah. She's a good supporter of the president. Yeah, she's only on one side. There's
Like
only
mentally though, Norman, like what do you think that's like? I can't even envision every day waking up. All right, I got some attacks. I'm going to go after this. I just can't fathom that. And you have to feed that beast every day to make that money, right?
two people used to be in our business, one more than the other, Clay Travis and Jason Whitlock. That's their whole MO.
Well,
Uh,
I don't want to touch one of them because I know him. The other one's out of the business because he's a fraud. You know, he got exposed big time.
yeah,
And
yeah,
he's not in sports anymore.
yeah. He's
Unless
gotten
you guys are
fired.
friends. Sorry,
Yeah,
but
he's gotten fired everywhere he's been or
yeah,
had to leave. But again, what they're doing, it's a pretty out in the open, broad daylight grift. It's similar to what you just mentioned about you just pick targets that you know are going to stir the base. And you do it every day. And again, the base, for some reason, for instance, talk radio always was better. Talk radio on the right has always been better than talk radio on the left. Rush Limbaugh, for instance, let's say
mm,
Rush Limbaugh versus Al Franken. Al Franken tried it. He tried a network, I think. I forgot what it's called.
yeah, flopped badly. Yeah,
Flopped badly. Rush Limbaugh is, and even when I disagree with him, I disagree with him 85% of the time, one of the most brilliant radio entertainers I've ever heard in my life. He knew how to
mm,
run a talk radio program. He knew how to engage. He knew how to craft an argument. Your boss right now, Colin Cowherd, you want to disagree with him. Colin knows how to take an argument, no matter how ridiculous it is. And he knows it pulls out social things. He's fatherless. Let me talk about fatherless kids here for the next 15 minutes. They can't do anything. But anyway, he knows how to craft an argument from start to finish. I give Colin all the credit in the world because he thinks before he talks. So he actually preps the right way, and he knows how to do a program like that. Rush was the greatest I ever saw doing a program like that. These other ones are, again, they're like, imitation rushes.
yeah.
So they're trying to they know where the audience is, and they've identified the audience. In fact, one of them replaced Rush on iHeartRadio in that time slot with his partner. And so they know where to go. And for some reason, again, on the right, they've always been much more effective in farming that audience more than the left. I don't know why.
Yeah. Where are you on? You mentioned Chris Russo earlier. That's not a name I'd heard a lot. And for some reason, he's been now, I see him in my timeline. I can't tell if people are laughing at him or with him. I don't know. It sounds like you're aware. I haven't heard any of his takes. I just see, and I keep scrolling. But what's the story with, are you guys friendly or no?
No, no, I've never met the guy,
Oh,
and
okay.
yeah, what he's. I mean, I'm not never been a big fan. I understand what he's doing. Like I remember when I first was made aware of him when he was on one of the first sports radio shows in the country, Mike and the Mad Dog,
Yes.
on the Fan in New York, and I didn't particularly like that particular act. And then he went solo, and I'd never listened to him on Sirius Radio. And the only reason I'm aware of him now is because I see YouTube clips of him, just shouting and shouting that, just shouting stuff. And they do it where he just comes up to the camera, he's going into the camera and he's shouting stuff, and Stephen A standing back there laughing at him, or it's reversed. So I think it's, as you said, some people are laughing with him, some people are laughing at him.
But they're laughing. So that he considers that a
So I
win.
think it works to some degree. I could never watch it. Like I could never listen. I used to work with Jim Rome when he was first on the radio.
Yeah.
I have a lot, I actually went out to lunch with Rome a couple times to try to establish a relationship. And I don't remember one thing we said to each other. It felt like I was dining with a department store mannequin. There was no there. If I scratched him on the skin, I don't think I get the blood. But
Oh,
anyway, I have
goodness.
a lot of respect for Jim. He identified again a young, angry sports male audience at an early age, and he does that thing every day. I couldn't listen to it for more than 10 or 15 minutes at a time.
Mm,
It's much more, it'd be much more reasonable to listen to Colin, or even though, God forbid, listen to you. It's much easier to listen to you all, but Jim knows what he's doing with that.
yeah.
I can't listen to it for more than 10 or 15 minutes.
It's funny when I had never heard of Chris Russo, and then I moved to New York after college, and I would driving around covering high school sports in northern Jersey, and you hear these guys on the radio, him and Francesa, and they would be talking about the Yankees middle relief, and here I am, a young guy, and I would be like, "Are you really talking about the bullpen middle relief, sixth, seventh, eighth inning?" And I would instantly change the channel. And there weren't many options. And I was like, how do people deal with this? I don't see what the interest is. But I guess you're right. They identified some kind of niche audience that just eats, breathes, and sleeps baseball.
Yeah,
And
but
it
I had
bore
to
me
see
to death.
she did hearing a New York show talking. This is years ago, talking about the Islanders' second line.
Oh,
I
geez.
don't follow hockey that much. I said, I mean, this where it's at? Again, there must be an audience there for it, but I'm much more fond of the approach, which is a little more lighthearted and not so intense. Like middle, you're talking middle
Yeah.
relievers,
Not the closer. I'm talking about like the second or
middle
third guy out of the pen.
yeah. And by the way, this is what before it became now, how it's now
Yeah.
it's just scripted where the starter goes five, then you have the sixth inning guy, the seventh inning guy, the eighth guy, and the closer. This is before all that, where they're talking about the key between this middle reliever and this reliever, and you go, what? We only live 70 or 80 years. We've got to spend it a little more, quality wise. We got to look at some other stuff.
Yeah. 70 years that I'm spending time talking about Jeff Nelson versus the lefty of him coming out of the Yankees bullpen in 2006 or what. I'm just making up names.
Yeah.
But anyways, Norman, I am curious. Like, where do you see the NBA going with Curry, Durant, and LeBron kind of at the end? We know they're going to get a heavy push now that football has one game left, but I'm just curious where you see the NBA going. Are you as dire as some of these NBA's dead people out there and the Charles Barkley types who just shit on the league all the time?
No, well, Charles, I mean, Barkley, I love to him. He can shit on the league all he wants. He's easy to watch. That's a great studio show. As far as NBA is dead, who are we kidding? The NBA, okay, they just signed a media deal for gazillions of dollars. Okay. Unlike the NBA and the NFL and MLB, their worldwide presence and their worldwide popularity or hockey is much greater than we know. Second of all. Third of all, there have been lulls. And by the way, as far as the game is being ruined right now, and let's say it has become too much of a three-point fest and this and that, okay? Each sport has made adjustments over the years, rules-wise, correctly so. Like, the baseball moved the mound down, whatever, 3 feet or 6 inches, whatever, in this, when they had ERAs of 1.50. Baseball's made incredible adjustments. The NFL, I remember, used to cover a guy by simply holding on to him all the way down the field. Lester Hayes would have stick him on his gloves and he'd be, so they've changed the rules to make it better offensively or defensively. The NBA will make the adjustment. As far as replacing the next generation always gets replaced. I understand people go, oh, even the stars today, do you really want to watch Anthony Edwards? Do you really want to? I want to watch Jokic. I love watching the Joker. I love watching Giannis. I know they don't seem to have, they don't have the MJ, Kobe, LeBron, Steph thing, but somebody will.
Yeah.
Wembanyama is going to, I could watch him all day long.
Yeah.
An 8'9" guy who makes 3-footers, makes 30-footers and blocks 30 shots a game. So the NBA is not nearly in dire shape as people think. The stadium, the in-stadium numbers and the arena numbers are as strong as ever. The ratings are down some because there's a lull. And by the way, the ratings are going down for virtually everything in every regard. Only the NFL holds steady. The NFL
Actually, NFL was down divisional weekend. Their numbers were down a little bit.
The NFL is a different animal, as we know. Like 90 of the top 100 TV programs in the U.S. are the NFL. The NFL is so powerful that Progressive Insurance, the NFL, they have backup quarterbacks doing Progressive ads. I mean, most people don't know backup quarterbacks. Most people don't know Colt McCoy. Backup guys are getting national TV contracts. That's how much of a hold the NFL has on us. But I'm not worried about the NBA in the long run. It is not dying off.
It's weird. If Anthony Edwards goes to Asia, it is like as if the Beatles descended upon Asia, right? Meanwhile, if 99.8% of NFL players go there, nobody knows who they are.
No.
They know Mahomes, but I'm pretty safe to assume Josh Allen could walk around Japan and nobody would know who he is. Maybe his tall white guy standing out. Oh, is that? But like they just don't have the familiarity.
Hey, if Josh Allen was my waiter at most Hollywood or West Hollywood or Beverly Hills restaurants, I wouldn't think he's Josh Allen, just another guy trying to get into the business. He's got to wait tables for a while. I wouldn't recognize Josh Allen. It's just if he just cut some of his facial hair off, I have no idea who he was.
No idea. Yeah, that's a good point. We'll wrap up with Caitlin Clark. I am just curious. She took the league by storm. WNBA's back. Everybody's all excited. I am just curious where you are with the WNBA or Caitlin Clark impact. I went to a game with my family last year. We loved it. I watched WNBA games featuring Clark. I don't really care much for too much else. I did go watch a Sparks game, but I don't know. WNBA, does that do anything for you at all?
It should. I hate, it's not sexist. It's just stupid. There's certain sports where I've had no interest in watching women perform. And, I watch the men in the NBA, the women, I don't have as much interest. Even golf, which I don't like that much. I'll watch men's golf. I'll watch the four majors. I won't watch any of the women's majors.
Mm.
So Kate, I'm glad for Caitlin Clark, and she's seemingly can rescue a league, which has not had a big imprint
Yeah.
on the American sports landscape. So I'm rooting for her, and I'm rooting for the WNBA, but where they go, I probably won't be going
Yeah.
with them. By the
So
way,
it's like, go ahead.
I just made me think of something. I went for the first time by accident to the immersive theater next to SoFi.
Oh, Cosm.
Cosm.
Yeah, yeah.
But I watched a soccer game. Okay, I usually don't care about soccer other than the World Cup. I was like this the whole game. The experience
Yeah.
was mind blowing, and they have contracts with the NBA. And our waiter told us that if you watch something on a smaller court size than soccer and fewer players, he goes, it's even 5 times better.
Wow.
The stadium experience was unbelievable. I've never done a drug in my life, and this was like being high. Going, my
Wow.
goodness, we're in the stadium. It was mind blowing, Jason.
I didn't know you had never done a drug in your life. Real quick, I forgot about bowling. So, question: you have referenced bowling many years in your columns. Do you bowl, and B, who is that? The guy who yells all this stuff. He has like an introduction when he comes out. He's like a famous bowler. You
Uh,
know,
you might be thinking, okay, from years ago, you might be thinking of Pete Weber,
Weber. That's it. Yeah,
who
yeah.
was actually the John McEnroe of bowling, pretty much. And yeah, he did the crotch. He had a crotch grab for a
That's
number of
right.
years, which I wasn't terribly fond of. But he does have. You can go to YouTube and find his famous when he won a big tournament, a major 10 or 15 years ago, and he shouted out something that made no sense, but he explained it later. Uh, who do you think you are? I
That,
am.
that's right.
Okay. Who do you think you are? I am. So and he tried to explain what it was later, but he's still around, but he's in his senior years now. But yeah, I've
Wow.
always, always appreciated bowling on TV. I'm a joke about it, but I do bowl. I don't bowl well. I love bowling. If I can bowl once a month, I'm happy to bowl once a
What are
month.
you getting? 150, 200?
Yeah, no, in the 140s.
That's pretty good.
Yeah. So I'm not a particularly good bowler, but I always liked bowling back in the old days because the telecasts were, football, baseball games can go on forever, particularly before they shorten it. The whole bowling telecast was, you knew it's going to be 90 minutes. It'd be 4 matches. Each one usually comes down to the last frame or so, and then you have a champion in the TV finals. I also like the fact that the bowlers were everyday people like you and me. Not that we're everyday people, but they don't earn, if you earn 6 figures in bowling, that's huge. It's such a tough life. They travel with they have roommates when they're on the road. Two bowlers will share a hotel room, or they'll rent an RV to go from city to city. It
Wow.
is not glamorous travel. It's not a glamorous way to make a living. You got to bowl about 35 or 40 games a week. Think about that on your body of bowling 5 or 6 games a day for 5 or 6 days. I get
Really?
yeah, it's an incredible pursuit. And
Wow.
then I always claim that bowlers, their wives, are people you and I could date. I mean, it's not the supermodel thing. They're regular people. So I've always appreciated the bowling world, and I wish it had a bigger. I know it's not going to have a bigger imprint in American sports landscape. It used to,
Yeah.
pre-cable and back in the old days. But yeah, I love bowling, and I've also regret that most old school bowling alleys have turned into boleros or lucky.
Yeah.
So it's like rock and bowl now. You go in there, it's a discotheque. And I can't even see the pins anymore. And I'm listening to, disco music from the 1970s. What the heck? It's taking
Yeah.
10 pins off of my game.
Yeah. All right, Norman, Chad. If you give out your handles for social and the audience starts yelling at you, do you care or not really? Do you embrace that, or you got enough going on in your life now that you don't need that?
No, I'm at Norman Chad on X. And, we have Gambling Mad with Norman Chad, which is a weekly podcast. We're talking about gambling and sports and politics and culture and food. Yeah.
Yeah. Are you betting on the any money on the Super Bowl yet, or no?
I do not, I run a podcast, obviously called Gambling Mad. I have not made a sports bet since I had a bad week in 1984. That's true story. I've not made a sports bet now since I was 25 years old.
Wow.
I had a
So
bad week in baseball.
no drugs and no gambling. What are your vices, man?
Huh? Oh, I got
What
a
are
lot
your
of vices.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
Yeah.
no
The
drugs.
one question that shut down Norman Chad. I got a lot of vices. Yeah. All right. Norman Chad. He's a legend, man. Honestly, one of my heroes growing up. I love him. Kornheiser, Wilbon were for me the big three. They were the Fab Five, if you will, the Fab Three. I just love reading your stuff. Always found you hilarious. Thanks a lot for taking the time, Norman.
All right, J Mac, have a good one.
All right.